Milt Northrop, 35 years with the Buffalo News, covering the Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Braves of the NBA, and all sports in between in Buffalo.
It's sort of an informal history of the Buffalo Bills during the 37 years that Ed Abramoski was with the team as a head trainer. I co-authored it, but it's basically Eddie's story is told to me, and I took down his notes. It's 99% his words and his remembrances. We started in January of 2001, and it was a pet project. Ralph Wilson enjoyed listening to Eddie's stories about the old Bills, especially the '60 Bills, Jack Kemp, Cookie Gilchrist, Billy Shaw, George Sames years. Probably a lot of people weren't even born then. But Ralph Wilson enjoyed Eddie's stories and remembrances of those years so much. He said, "Eddie, you got to write a book. You got to write a book." And for years after Eddie retired, Mr. Wilson put even more pressure on him, and so they invited me to work on the project with Eddie, and we hope it's going to be an enjoyable book. It's not a history of the Bills, official history. It's kind of a remembrances of a lot of fun times, a lot of good anecdotes, a lot of great personalities, some of Eddie's favorite people, and he had a lot of favorite people. He could probably tell you about some of them, or you could ask him about people like Tom Sestak and Jack Kemp and Pete Metzelaars and Steve Tasker, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, people he's worked with, helped take care of it, and became close friends with. I think Eddie Abramoski probably has more friends among the Buffalo Bills than any person on this earth, including Mr. Wilson. I happened to see the first game Cookie Gilchrist played with the Bills. I was working in New Haven at the time, and he happened to join the Bills for an exhibition game in New Haven. And Eddie can tell you, that first game, Lou Saban got quite a shock at halftime of that game. Tell him about it, Eddie.
Well, first of all, Cookie Gilchrist, in my opinion, was probably the finest football player I've ever seen, but somewhere he always got tangled up in something, some kind of little sidetrack. So he was 6'2", 252 pounds, 51-inch chest, 31-inch waist, 4'6", 40, could punt, could kick off. He could have played any position on the football field he wanted to play. Really and truly he could. He just was a super football player, but he was always distracted by something. Like he lived in Toronto, and he'd drive from Toronto and he'd get caught for speeding every other day and things like that. Another time we were having a playoff game, he bought earmuffs that he had made in Canada with the Bills logo on. He got permission to have the Bills logo and was going to have them for the playoff game because it was in late December. Well, he forgot to check with customs, and they wouldn't let him bring them across. So we had like 4,000 earmuffs sitting in the Bills locker room all winter because he couldn't get them there for the game.
And that was about 45 degrees too.
Yeah, it was about 45 degrees too. But anyway, the story Milt was alluding to is we had just gotten Cookie from Kitchener, the ORFU, which the minor leagues of the Canadian Football League now. Harvey Johnson, who used to coach up there, coached Cookie, so he knew him. So we got him down, and we took the bus to the first game, and we were playing. And in them days, we weren't very good, and either was the Titans, and it was a lousy game. And at halftime, we're coming in. Cookie threw his helmet in the locker, and he proceeded to start taking off all his clothes. And Saban looked at me, he says, Eddie, is he quitting? I said, I don't know, Coach. He said, go ask him. Well, what had happened is Cookie always took off his socks, jocks, and t-shirt, and either, if it was really hot, he took a shower, a cold shower, or a warm shower, or vice versa, and put on all fresh stuff. Well, nobody knew this, so Lou went bananas. But after I told him, no, he does this all the time. He said, I thought he was, temperamental, and he was going to quit because we were that lousy. But that's a Cookie Gilchrist story.
Came here in 1967, so I met a lot of people. But you lose a little contact with people in the sports film when you're not out there talking with them, or seeing them on a professional basis.
Milt, all these years in Buffalo sports, who's your most memorable character that you can actually tell the stories here?
My most memorable character?
I'm talking basketball, football, baseball, 35 years in sports.
A lot of stories.
Besides Cookie.
Well, I never experienced Cookie when he was here. I've met him a few times. Probably the most unforgettable guy, or guy I respect the most, is Jack Ramsey, who was a good man, a good coach, and a good friend. And to this day, he has a wonderful family, and he's an amazing guy. He's in his mid-70s, and he still has a career in the media. And I think he's as respected now as much as he was when he was coaching. One time he was the winningest coach in the history of the league. That record has since gone by the boards. But I was intrigued the other day. There was a commentary on the Allen Iverson situation, and USA Today went to somebody to ask him, well, is this going to hurt the NBA? And the guy they went to was Jack Ramsey, sort of like a spokesman, the Dutch uncle of the NBA. You know, a man who's been there and knows Philadelphia and knows players. And I was interested in Jack Ramsey coaching Allen Iverson would have really been something, a real clash, because Jack used to get driven crazy by guys like Randy Smith and Bob McEnroe, who are great guys and solid citizens compared to some of the players in pro sports now. I'm a little concerned. The impression that's out there about the Buffalo market, the diminishing population, diminishing economy here in Western New York in general. The only thing that mitigates against moving a team is that there aren't really many places to go. There is one place to go. It's Los Angeles, though. That's wide open, and as soon as they get their act together and build a stadium, somebody's going to end up there. I don't think the NFL is going to expand 32 teams. 32 is a good number. When they were at 29 and 30, you knew they were going to have to add 2 to even the thing out eventually. Now they're at 32. I don't think they're going to go to 36 or 33 or 34. So an existing team is going to end up in LA. I hope it's not the Bills. I hope that the regional concept, which is what they're selling, succeeds. I think it will. But the team has to remain somewhat competitive. The Bills are somewhat generous. They're not overly generous with time for the media in the locker room. But there's a certain period of time after practice that they're allowed in. I believe it's an hour. And usually an hour is the time to do whatever business you have to do there. Sometimes you have to wait for a guy who's the Bills, certain positions have weight strength training on certain days. So sometimes the guy you want to interview has his day in the weight room, and if he has treatment in the training room for an injury or a condition, sometimes your time is up before he's available. But usually you can work it out. And different sports are different situations. In baseball, the press is allowed in the locker rooms or the dressing rooms, as they call it, before games, because so many, especially in night games, so many papers, guys have to write stories before games are over, so they get feature material before the game. But I don't think you have to have unlimited access. Now you're not talking about the access of female reporters, which is a whole new issue. I think there has to be some changes in the way things are done because of the fact they're females. And I don't think I'd want to be taking a shower with strange females walking around. If I was an athlete and doing it every day after day after day, I think you have to have interview rooms and cover-up policies or areas that the media is not, or anybody else is not allowed in. In most cases, you're not allowed in the training room, but it's not for modesty reasons. It's mainly to keep injuries, keep that stuff private and secure. Some sports, if you know a certain person is injured in a certain area, it's a disadvantage. Hockey, they go out of their way to mask injuries. They'll say a guy's got a shoulder injury when it's a knee injury and vice versa.